and the tools necessary to build successful, sustainable businesses. Before I turn this webinar over to Dan to get started, we'll have Janelle Green, who's GO-Biz small business specialist. She'll be here to introduce you to some of the features of GoToWebinar, the platform we're using today. So let me turn over to Janelle.
Thank you, Jesse. At the far right of your screen, you should see a vertical toolbar. This toolbar will provide you with access to audio and visual for the presentation. If you experience any technical audio issues during the presentation, please click on Help at the top of the toolbar and then select Sound Check. This will allow you to check your audio configuration. Please note that participant lines will remain muted during the entire presentation. If you have a question during the webinar, please submit it during the presentation via the questions or chat box. The questions chat box is located in the middle of the toolbar. GO-Biz staff will be monitoring this box and will respond during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. The blue icon with a picture of a yellow hand on the far left side of the toolbar allows you to raise your hand to ask questions during the webinar. Since we will respond to questions during the Q&A session of this webinar, we will not be using this feature. The blue icon with a white box on the far left side of the toolbar also allows you to view the presentation in full screen mode. Now I will turn the presentation over to our presenters. Diane and Kurt, welcome again, and thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you, Janelle and Jesse, for this opportunity to talk about small business, as well as, in particular, the Small Business Development Center program. So, Kurt?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kurt Clark, Director of the Alliance SPDC in Modesto.
Yeah. So, what we're about to do is waiting for the screen to scroll down. And in the meantime, the Small Business Development Center program is a program that is a partnership between the public and the private sector. It is one that has been in existence for 35 years. We are a nationally accredited program, and it's an opportunity where we can bring together the business community, the academic community, and the public and private sector side so that we can leverage resources. So by the end of this webinar, an objective is for you to have a grasp of who we are, what we do, and where and how. We want to focus today's webinar on these topics. We're going to discuss how to start or expand a business. We're going to use the business model canvas as really a geographic design of the business plan, learn about business resources available to help you, funding your business, creative resources and tips to maximize your chance for success, and top business tips for 2015. One of the things about the Small Business Development Center program, and we'd like for you to get a big, the 35,000 square foot opportunity to see what it's all about. It's a national program that has over 1,000 small business development centers throughout the country and the American territories, and so we're part of a very strong network. And then in California, there are 6 regional programs, and the goal here is for a small business to be at least accessible to a service center or satellite location that's an hour or 2 hours away. So this gives you an overview of the California SBDC program. And our region that Kurt and I cover are the section in the middle, and that is the yellow section that you see on your screen, and that we cover 14 counties, 51,000 square miles in Central California. So just an overview of California's SPDC program. California's SPDC program will get the job done. We are the state's largest and most effective small business assistance program. There are over 130 locations, 400 plus business advisors, and last year we saw and touched 65,000 plus clients through training and business consulting. This gives you an idea of the economic impact for 2014, where 920 new jobs were created, over 3,100 jobs retained, 5,400 plus jobs created, and then over $343 million in sales increase, and then the capital infusion for loans and equity of over a $500,000. So 500 million plus. And what these numbers tell you are our direct client services that we meet with clients, and these are not multiplied numbers, but they are direct client service numbers with our clients. So I'd like to turn it over to Kurt on giving you some examples of what we do when we work with clients.
So I'm going to assume that many of you on the call today are entrepreneurs or persons interested in starting a business, and then also people who are in business, small business owners. SBDC program is very adept, and we have considerable experience through our business consultants in helping a wide range of business types as well as levels of business development. So traditionally, SPDC program has been kind of the Main Street business program where we're helping the landscaper, the house painter, the florist understand what the local requirements are for legally being in business, how to set up a business structure, how to put together the various components or systems of a business, such as record keeping, HR, how to comply with employer regulations and requirements, all the various technical aspects of running a business. We're not the experts in what you do to make money. So we're not the experts in how to paint houses or mow lawns or whatever the technical expertise is. We're the experts in setting up the business. So we come alongside the entrepreneur, the business owner, and we are educators, mentors, coaches, and we help the business owner or a key employee, such as a manager, understand how to run that business better. One of the great benefits of our program is consulting services are always provided at no cost. So the entrepreneur, the business owner, never has to pay for SPDC consulting, and that's mandated by the SBA as part of our federal grant agreement. So some of the things that we do, business owners should have a plan. If you're going to start a business, you should have a plan for how you're going to be successful in business. And we want to teach you the fundamentals. We want to make sure that even if it's, you may know a lot already, but there's always something new to learn. There's either new things about the market, new things about competition, new technologies that are impacting the market. The world around us is constantly in flux and in change, and the SPDC program tries and I think successfully delivers the latest knowledge when it comes to successfully running a business. So in my center, I currently have about 30 professional business consultants under contract, and I serve a 4-county area, so it's a pretty large geographic area. And our consultants live, many of them live in the outlying communities. So we're trying to provide convenient, direct access to our services for the entrepreneur and business community. Different centers have different expertise. No two centers are exactly the same. Some areas of the state may need more exporting assistance, or like my center is in the Central Valley of California, so we do work with a lot of value-added ag, small manufacturing, food processing. We have a lot of clients that work in some way related to ag production. We don't serve farmers, but we do serve the ancillary businesses that support ag, so that we do have experts in those areas. Certainly, commercialization of technology is important. A lot of small businesses come up with innovative ways of doing things, and we want to help them either protect IP, which means to protect their ideas legally, or to teach them how to license or help them get their products commercialized so that they can turn it into revenue. There's a list of items there that we have specialized assistance in. Sometimes a business owner may have owned a business for a long period of time and they want to sell that business, and we can come alongside and help that business owner understand how to value that business, what a fair, maybe what a market rate or market price might be for that business, and then strategies for how you might get that business sold. We do almost every center I'm aware of has resource services available to help entrepreneur or business owner understand their market, understand some of the technical aspects of their business, what the regulatory requirements might be, understanding competition, understanding how to define their market, their customer base. So we provide those types of services as well. And then one of the other things I think we're doing more of across the state is teaching business owners how to sell their services, their products to local, state, federal government. And this is a really expanding opportunity because I think most of you know that governments across the nation's local governments are huge consumers of products and services, and we want our clients to be, if they so choose, to be in a position to sell directly to government. So we help them understand the certification requirements, what are the procurement requirements that are in place depending upon the type of government they're dealing with.
Business model canvas.
So we're going to shift focus a little bit and talk some specifics here about going into business. I've been in the SPDC program for about 15 years now, and over that time frame, I've seen kind of the traditional business plan approach change. It's going through transition. I think what we're seeing is companies that are starting up need speed to market types of information. Traditional business plan can take a long time to research, a long time to put together. Banks may still want to see that. If you're going to a bank for a large loan, they often require that you have a traditional business plan. But a lot of our clients don't really need to develop to write a full traditional business plan. What they need to know is their idea viable? Is there a market for their idea? Can they acquire customers? What do those customers want? And the various elements of what is now referred to as the business model canvas. And it's literally a two-dimensional, flat representation of the various areas that are key to understanding, is this business likely to be successful? So in the upper left-hand corner, you begin to chart. You can put it on sticky notes, you can write it on a notepad, but you begin to gather information in these different sections of the business model canvas. And you're looking at who are you going to partner with, who are those individuals or organizations that are going to support you as you develop your business, what are the key activities that you're going to engage in, how do you get your product or service developed, how do you get it to market, what are the key resources that you need to tap into. Lots and lots of business support resources, both in the form of similar to what we're doing in the SBDC world. There's other resource partners. We're going to touch on those towards the end of the presentation. There are lots of free services, and there are also professional service providers such as attorneys, insurance providers, accountants, tax professionals that a small business needs to utilize. There's the value proposition, which is simply a way to say, what is it that you're providing to the market that represents value? People are not likely to spend money with your business unless it represents some form of value to them. The amount of money they're willing to spend usually is commensurate with the value that they perceive, the perceived value of your service and product. So if you're selling automobiles, are you selling the least expensive, kind of the low end of the market, or are you selling the high end of the market? And different customer segments in the marketplace are going to want a different type of product to fill that need. So you need to understand what your value proposition is. Moving forward to the right or on to the right, customer relationships. How do you acquire customers? What is it that you need to understand about your customers in order to build a customer following? There are customer segments. The marketplace can be divided into different segments that represent people who have different needs or who have different consumer behaviors. They may respond to a different message, and you need to understand what those segments are and which one align best with your product or service. Channels then is, how do you get your product distributed to your customers, your targeted customers? What's the most cost-effective way to do that? What partners or what delivery methods might need to be developed? This is all part of, again, getting a clear picture of what your business is going to look like prior to you making the decision to launch that. Across the bottom, we finally arrive at the money. And the lower left is the cost structure. It's very, very important that you understand what the costs are going to be to operate your business, to offer your product or service to the marketplace. We see business owners, entrepreneurs quite regularly that have misunderstood their cost, who don't fully build all of the costs into their pricing, and they create a lot of sales, or they create sales, but don't necessarily create profit. So one of the things we want to make sure we help the entrepreneur understand is, what are the true costs of being in business? Not just the actual cost of the service, the hard costs, but what are the other costs, the fixed costs, the ancillary costs, and the entire cost of operating that business. And then projecting, helping the client, moving to the lower right, helping the client, our customer, entrepreneur, business owner, truly understand what the likely revenue is going to be from operations. And again, these are things that all link together. It is a very dynamic process. There is lots of adjustments that are made throughout this process until you arrive at just the right configuration of all these variables and an understanding of the realities of the market environment. This is kind of the new version of the business plan. There may be additional work that goes on in writing a plan, but this is a great representation of a blueprint, a roadmap, if you will, of getting to a successful business.
And I would add that this is good for starting a business, but if you're an existing business owner and you want to go in a new direction, whether it's a new location, it's a new product line, or a service, you might take this business model canvas and ask these same questions to make sure that you're on the right track. And as Kurt said, one of the easy ways to do a quick brainstorming is to take sticky notes, and then begin to put together your thoughts on key partners, key activities, pricing models, revenue streams, as Kurt went over. So another aspect of starting a business is funding your business, and we thought we would discuss some of the common mistakes, the things that you want to make sure that you avoid in setting up your business. One is, did you form your business entity and establish ownership percentages with financing in mind? And that means that you want to make sure that if you have partners, what are the implications of that? Did you create a plan for your credit card usage, doing nothing about your credit card score? A lot of times small businesses start their business with their credit card, but they don't have a way out, and we don't necessarily advocate for that. We're not saying that's the best way to go about it because of the fees involved. So our choice is that you would, before you start spending money or using your credit card, to come to the SBDC and we can see what funding options are out there, because there are a lot of funding options. And as Kurt mentioned, not knowing the true cost of selling and marketing your products and services. And you might say, we want to give free delivery service, but do you actually know the cost of that delivery service and getting that package to the post office or the UPS? Have you factored in all of those cost factors and features when you are pricing out your product or service? And the other option is, don't treat your investors, which are often family and friends, as if they're not important. Your first line, your family and friends, and the people that come and invest in your business, keep them as professionals and as a business partner. So, and then the last point here on mistakes you want to avoid: not knowing your best startup and financing options. One of the advantages of coming to the SPDC is that you do have an opportunity to learn what other options out there. And Kurt, why don't you take a few minutes, if you don't mind, and just talk about some financing options, microloans, bank loans, what they look for.
Sure. When I first started with the SBDC, I actually came out of the retail grocery industry, and I owned a couple of small businesses. Growing up, my family's was very entrepreneurial. I really didn't understand the bank funding model. I didn't understand a lot about how to fund a business. So I had to learn that early on, and I think today, because of that, I've become kind of, for our center, the funding expert. One of the things that I've seen over the last few years post-recession is that there are more funding options available. Banks are still fairly restricted in lending out money. Important if you're going to go to a bank that you have an established banking relationship, and that you have good operating practices. Banks typically are the lowest cost of funds, typically provide the most favorable payback terms. So that's a good option. It's usually the best option, but for many small business owners, it's not an option because banks simply, for most small businesses or many small businesses, they just simply can't meet the criteria for a traditional bank loan. So a lot of what we call non-traditional funders, nonprofits, mostly they're nonprofits, but different organizations are beginning to fill the gap, and usually micro lending, so $5,000 to $50,000, but some of the programs go up to as much as $250,000. For most small businesses, that is a sufficient amount of capital to meet their needs. The general community of non-traditional lenders tend to operate just outside of the space where traditional lenders would operate. So if a particular borrower or applicant couldn't qualify at a bank for a conventional loan or even an SBA guaranteed loan, the nonprofit lenders tend to operate on the next layer out, which means for whatever reason that borrower couldn't meet either credit or collateral requirements or equity requirements, there is a good possibility that they will meet the criteria for these nonprofit lenders, most of which, surprisingly, are almost the same interest rate. Maybe it's slightly higher because the risk is a little bit higher of the borrowers who don't meet the bank's requirements, but not hard money lenders. So we're not talking about 15 to 25% interest rates. Typically it's 1 to 3% interest rates higher than conventional lending. So SBDCs are pretty adept at understanding who in their local communities are filling this need, these micro lenders, these non-traditional lenders. So in every part of the state, and I'm sure our audience today is from across the state, so I would strongly encourage you, if you're looking for funding, find out who the local SBDC is in your area and reach out to them and get to know them. I'm very confident that they will be able to direct you to, if you've been unable to get funding directly from a conventional source, a bank, that they will be able to educate you on these non-traditional sources. No guarantee you'll get funded, but it is another option. We work a lot. I'm in the Central California area, so I work a lot with an organization out of Fresno. It is a Certified Development Financing Institution, goes by the acronym CDFI, and there are CDFIs across the state, and they are a good source of business lending. Usually a relatively quick turnaround process, interest rates are usually reasonable, the fees are usually reasonable. CDFIs are chartered by the federal government and they follow very strict guidelines, so you're dealing as close to a regulated environment as you can without getting into the banking environment. That would be a recommendation, at least look at CDFIs. We work a lot with the Fresno CDFI, and we're seeing about, on average, anywhere from 2 to 5 clients a month getting funded through the CDFI. So we've seen a lot of client success there. Now these tend to be smaller loans, so anywhere from typically $5,000 to $30,000, $40,000 range. But for a startup business or a business that just needs a little working capital, a business that needs to purchase a new piece of equipment, this is a good option, much better option than using credit cards, which I rarely recommend that a client fund much more than very short-term needs with a credit card. You do not want to be paying interest. If you can pay your credit card off every month and basically use somebody else's money, for a short-term loan, that's great. But quite often what happens is the business has the best of intentions to pay that credit card off either monthly or within a few months. But then cash flow issues crop up, and then that business begins to carry those balances at very high interest rates. And that's where quite often we see our clients get into cash flow issues or, funding issues, is they have these huge monthly payments. They just, over time, begins costing them a lot. So,
Kurt, how long does it take to get an application through a CDFI and then go into a traditional bank loan?
With CDFI, my experience has been, we work with the client ahead of time, prepare them in advance for their application. Once the application is, all the documents are prepared, the application is submitted to the CDFI. We see turnaround times on funding anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks. It just depends on different factors, the amount of money. There could be additional documentation that the underwriting committee wants to see. But I think typically tends to be 2 to 4 weeks. But if it's a larger loan, then it can take a little longer. Banks, again, everything being perfect, banks can turn around credit approval in 7 to 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks. But many of our clients simply aren't able to get funded through banks. So we're looking at other options.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to look at funding, the key is give yourself plenty of time, because it will take time, and it all depends on the documentation that you have in place already. And the other point that we often see clients that have spent their funds on equipment, on furniture, on fixtures, and they want to come to the bank and they need working capital. Well, it's just the reverse. The bank will more likely fund the furniture and the fixtures and the equipment, and you fund the working capital. So keep that in mind, and that's on what you're asking to get funded. They like to see things that they can see and touch and feel. So here's some top business tips for 2015. Be prepared to work long, long hours. Employ amazing people. They really can make a difference in your life because you're juggling an awful lot if you're looking to go into business. Be forensic with your finances. Know your cost of goods. Know your profitability on all your products and services so that you don't have a loss leader. Inspire your team with purpose and leadership. You are serving many different hats, so the key is to get the team excited about your vision too. How your customers view your business is really the key. So make sure that they understand you know their customer's viewpoint. And tackle the issue as soon as you see a problem occurs, and utilize all the support and advice available. There's a lot of sources out there, and we'll go to that slide in just a minute. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a couple of final thoughts on what I consider top tips. One is, I think every business owner would like to have a true professional business coach at their disposal, literally a phone call away or a day or two appointment away. And that's what the SBDC is really here to provide. Our consultants, all of our consultants in our program, and I'm sure that's true across the state, are true business professionals. They're experienced either in a specialized area or they're former business owners. Most of them are current business owners. Most of them have their own consulting business, and they struggle and they deal with many of the same issues any business owner deals with. So they live it, they breathe it, they know it, and they are available to entrepreneurs, small business owners across the state. That's why the program exists, and I would encourage anyone who would like to have access to that resource to take advantage of our program. Again, it's a no-cost service. Some of the training programs do have small fees, but the one-on-one counseling is really the heart of our program, and that is the most valuable service that I think we provide, and that is at no cost. And again, you build a relationship with your coach, and your coach is available via email, via phone call, via appointment time. They're very accessible. They want to see small business owners succeed. All of the people that work in our program have a passion to help other people, and they really get excited when they see their clients succeed.
And so some of the resources out there are listed in this last slide. The Governor's Office of Economic Development. There's the website link. The America's SPDC. That's our national association. And there are some good resources on their site. The California SPDC has a listing of all the SPDCs in California, so that's another good reference site. A wonderful organization, Cameo, California Association for Micro Enterprise Opportunity. We work very closely with Cameo, and they are a good micro business site for as a resource. The SBA has some good reference pages on their site. They also have some business plan templates. SCORE is another good source for business assistance, and if you have an idea and you've got several of them and you're just trying to bounce around which one might be the best, I would suggest go to SCORE, and Cameo too, but go to them and help them sort through what direction you might take your new idea. And even though a lot of us are not favorites with the IRS, or they make us nervous, the IRS does have a good small business portal. So I do suggest that you go there, and they do have some good tips on hiring, and it is a good resource. And then the Women's Business Centers are in the state, and they are also a good source for assistance. So as you can see from this list, and there are probably more, but these are the highlight list of resources that are out there to help you. And we want to help you before you start spending the greenback. We want you to work with us so we can pencil in cost factors and help you become long-term sustainable and very profitable. So now we'll turn it over to Janelle if we have any questions, but that's our overview.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diane and Kurt, for your guys' presentation. So now we're going to start the Q&A session of our webinar. So as we discussed earlier, if anyone on the line has a question, there is a chat and comment box. It's going to be in the middle of your toolbar. You're just going to click on the icon, and you'll be able to type a question, and we will read those to our presenters. So now's the perfect time if you have any follow-up questions or need further clarification regarding any of the information that our presenters spoke about today. This would be the perfect time to get your questions answered.
Well, it looks like we don't have any questions for the panelists, but I do want to say thank you to Diane Howard and to Kurt Clark for joining us today. And, as I mentioned, I used to serve as an SBDC Regional Director for Los Angeles, and, I can tell you that there's nothing more powerful than the opportunity to sit down and spend one-on-one time with a business advisor at no cost. Just having someone there to help you work through critical problems to your business is one of the most important things that you can take advantage of. So I highly encourage all of you on today's webinar to seek out your local SPDC or any resource partner that's available to you and just take advantage of those services. So thank you, Dan and Kurt. For those of you on the line, please join us again on May 26th and May 27th for additional small business webinars as part of our May webinar series. If you need more information, please visit our calendar of the events at business.ca.gov. But thank you all for participating today.